Today, we're jumping into a topic that, well, it touches every single one of us. The future of energy. With demand going up globally, resources changing, are we actually heading for a big energy crisis? It's complicated, loads of different angles. So our mission here is to really pull out the key insights from the sources you sent over. Think of it as your shortcut to getting up to speed on this really vital subject without feeling totally swamped by all the info out there. And guiding us through all this complexity, we have our expert. You've spent, decades looking into global energy trends, pulling all this research together.
That's right. It's certainly a landscape that keeps shifting.
I'm really looking forward to unpacking this. Let's get into it. Okay, first off, when we say energy crisis, what does that really mean? Is it just, are we going to run out of oil or gas?
That's a really important place to start. No, it's much broader than just running out. It really covers a whole bunch of connected things. Can people get energy? Can they afford it? Is it sustainable? Is the supply secure? The thing is, even if the fuel doesn't disappear entirely, we rely so heavily on fossil fuels and demand keeps climbing. So actually getting to those resources, it's just getting more expensive, more difficult, and that makes the global markets pretty unstable.
Oh, okay. So it's not only about the environment then. It sounds like it's tangled up in everything.
Exactly. It's totally systemic. It connects directly to climate change, obviously, but also to our infrastructure, the grid, pipelines, technology, and even social justice issues. We have to remember, energy poverty is still a huge deal for millions of people. Just having reliable, affordable power isn't a given everywhere, not by a long shot.
That really puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
So what are the big factors pushing us towards this potential crisis? What's really driving it?
Well, there are a few major forces at play. First, it's almost simple math. The global population is growing. We're heading towards, 10 billion people by 2050? That's a lot more people needing energy every day.
10 billion, wow.
Yeah. Then second, you've got economic development. Think about places like India, parts of Africa, they're growing fast, which is great news for people there. But that development needs a lot of energy. New factories, building roads, more homes needing power. It all adds up very quickly.
Right, development is energy intensive. Makes sense.
Third, and this one's a bit complex, is our climate goals. We know we need to move away from fossil fuels. That transition is essential. But it's a massive global shift. And if it's not planned really well, maybe it's too slow in some places or different countries aren't in sync, you can actually end up with short-term energy shortages and price hikes. It creates this tricky balance, doesn't it, between what we need right now and our long-term climate targets.
That's a really interesting point, the transition itself causing bumps. And then there's always geopolitics, right?
Wow.
Conflicts seem to ripple through energy markets almost instantly.
Oh, absolutely. The war in Ukraine was a stark example. It just threw Europe's dependence on Russian gas into sharp relief, didn't it? But what was really striking, looking through the sources, wasn't just the immediate supply disruption. It was how it forced this massive, urgent rethink about energy security across the board.
A real wake-up call.
Definitely. Countries that had these long-standing energy deals suddenly had to scramble, find new sources. It exposed just how fragile some parts of the global energy system were, things people maybe took for granted. So now you see energy independence, diversification. These are top priorities everywhere. It's even changing how countries view alliances and trade.
Okay, so given all that, renewables always come up. Wind, solar, they're often talked about as the solution. But based on the material, are they really enough on their own? Are there maybe hidden hurdles?
They're definitely a huge part of the answer. Absolutely critical. But no, they aren't the whole story by themselves. The big challenge everyone knows about is intermittency, right? The sun isn't always out, the wind doesn't always blow. But what often gets maybe underestimated is just the sheer scale of the energy storage problem that creates. We need ways to store massive amounts of power for when renewables aren't generating.
Right, storage, batteries, hydrogen, maybe. We hear about battery costs coming down, huge progress being made. Are they really ready to be deployed globally at the scale we need? Any less obvious roadblocks?
Well, the progress is impressive. Battery prices, for instance, they've fallen something like over 80% in the last 10 years. That's huge.
80%.
Yeah, it's faster than even solar panel costs dropped early on. But here's the less obvious bit. Scaling this up globally isn't just about making more batteries. It means we basically have to rebuild large parts of our energy infrastructure. We need massive grid upgrades. We need much smarter systems to manage energy flow, predict dips and surges. And you need governments putting solid long-term policies in place to encourage all that investment. It's a massive logistical undertaking, frankly.
Okay, what about nuclear? It pops up in these discussions too. Consistent power, low carbon.
Yeah.
but always seems controversial.
Nuclear really is a double-edged sword. There's no doubt about that. On the one hand, yes, it provides stable, low-carbon power around the clock. That's a big plus for energy security. But on the other hand, you've got incredibly high upfront costs to build plants, ongoing safety concerns, and the big one. What do you do with the radioactive waste long term?
The waste issue always seems like the sticking point.
It is, and what's interesting is how differently countries are approaching this. Some are pushing ahead with new nuclear plants, seeing it as vital, maybe a bridging fuel. Others are actively phasing it out completely, prioritizing public opinion or worries about waste. The sources really show there's no global agreement here at all. It depends so much on local factors, values.
We've talked a lot about the big picture, the global systems, but let's bring it down to the ground level. What does an energy crisis actually feel like for ordinary people, for communities?
Yeah, the human impact is direct and often brutal. We're talking about things like regular blackouts, power just going out, messing up daily life, fuel shortages at the pump, meaning people can't get to work, goods can't move, electricity bills suddenly shooting up, making it hard for families to cope. And think about jobs, potential large-scale unemployment in areas that depend heavily on coal mining or oil extraction, for instance.
And even beyond the household level.
Well, think about essential services. Hospitals need reliable power for life-saving equipment. Schools need it for lighting, for computers. Communication networks rely on it. So a lack of stable electricity can really cripple a community's basic functions. Healthcare, education, just staying connected.
That's quite sobering. And
Yeah.
you're saying this isn't just a potential future we're worried about. This is already happening.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't theoretical. Look at places like South Africa, parts of Asia. Load shedding, planned, rolling blackouts is a daily or weekly reality for millions. Unscheduled outages, too. For huge numbers of people, the energy crisis isn't some abstract future threat. It's right now. It dictates their lives every single day.
Okay, so given this complex web of challenges, population development, transition, geopolitics, infrastructure, what can actually be done? What are the solutions the sources point towards?
It really has to be action on multiple levels. Everyone has a part to play. Governments are key. They need to be making strategic investments, serious money in renewables, and also in upgrading those energy grids we talked about. And they need to create smart policies, incentives to really push green innovation forward across the economy.
And industries, businesses.
For industries, the big push has to be reducing their own emissions, adopting cleaner ways of manufacturing, making their operations much more energy efficient.
Okay, and what about us, individuals? Does what we do really make a difference?
It absolutely does. As individuals, we can focus on reducing our own energy consumption where possible, making conscious choices about usage. We can also support clean energy policies, get involved locally, and honestly, just staying informed, understanding the issues is incredibly important.
So it sounds like it's not just waiting for some big technological fix or a single global agreement. It's also about lots of smaller actions adding up.
Exactly. If you think back to where we started, real change comes from that awareness, doesn't it? Understanding the problem, seeing how it connects, and realizing that we all, individually and together, have a role in shaping what comes next for energy.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Thank you so much for walking us through all of that. It's such a complex area, and you've really helped clarify the key moving parts. For listeners who are now thinking, okay, I want to know more, or maybe even how can I get involved, where should they look?
Well, a good starting point can often be local. Are there community energy projects or environmental groups in your area? Sometimes change starts right there. Online, there's obviously tons of information. The key is being critical, look for credible sources. University research, reports from established energy institutions, peer-reviewed studies. Try to get beyond just the headlines.
Great advice. So as you've heard, the energy situation is complex, maybe even a bit daunting. But the key takeaway seems to be that it's not hopeless. Keep asking questions, keep learning beyond just this deep dive, because that awareness we talked about, it really is the first step towards change. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope this gives you plenty to think about regarding how we'll all power our shared future.